Would you do the roll call for us, Aaron?
Of course. Member Jager?
Here.
Thank you. Member Reynolds for Member Lindemood?
Here.
Member Dowd? Member Alini?
Present.
Member Boland?
Here.
Member Starzyk for Member White?
Here.
Member Coy?
Here.
Member Keegan?
Present.
Member Kohlhaas?
Here.
Member McKenna Foster for Member Babb?
Present.
And I just want to let you know that Member Rudolph is excused today. We do have quorum, of
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Could you do the public involvement announcement, please?
course. Welcome to the AMAT's Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Public comments are welcome and encouraged with 3 minutes given to each speaker. After the committee discusses each item, members of the public will be invited to comment. A couple of housekeeping items for virtual attendees. Please keep your cameras off unless speaking. For those attending by phone, please press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. First on the list is to approve the agenda. Do we have a motion for approving the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Boland, seconded by Ms. Keegan. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is approved. Item 4 on the agenda is to approve meeting minutes. Do we have a motion for approving the October 2nd, 2025 minutes?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. Starzyk. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Alimi. Are there any changes that are needed to the minutes? Okay, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is to jump into the action items. Number 1 is item 5A, the Seward to Glenn Highway Draft PEL staff comments.
Hello, everybody. Today is the day where I'm just knocking things over. Okay, so the item before you today is the Seward to Glenn PEL. So the draft documents are out for public comment right now. The documents are being brought forward so the TAC can review them and provide any comments if they're desired. Comments are due by November 21st of 2025, so we had to move pretty quickly on this item. I did want to let you know, staff did provide comments to the project team already. They are attached for your information today. They do not require your approval. They're just there for your knowledge. So the idea with this item is just to give you the opportunity to draft any comments that you want to submit to the policy committee for recommendation to send forward to the project team. So you could come up with your own comments. You could support staff's comments. You could not support staff's comments. You could remain neutral on the whole topic. There is a whole plethora of ideas that you can draw from on your action today. It's a little different because we didn't really bring anything for you guys to react to on this item. So it's really just trying to give you the opportunity to craft it how you want. So staff is here to assist, and that's what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
No, please.
Go ahead, Mr.
All right, thank you. I just want to say thanks to staff for taking the time to draft comments on, go through all the documents that we have here on this latest information on the PEL. I know our team's looking at drafting responses here, and also want to offer up if AMAT staff wanted to get together and kind of walk through responses and comments. Happy to set up a meeting for. I think in general, I've been involved with this PEL at some level here for I think the last 4 years plus now. And remembering one of the first public meetings that I went to, we presented a trenched highway through Hyder, which I think would have decimated the community of Fairview. And so just looking at a lot of the impacts to businesses and residences and some of those alternatives early on, I think the team has done a great job of working with stakeholders, making relationships with the folks in Fairview, great community, bike ped. I think there's been a ton of outreach when it comes to this PEL. And so really hope folks are seeing a balanced approach here that provides some benefits to all users within the area. So anyway,
Okay, thanks, Luke. You have some comments, Daniel?
Yeah, this is Daniel McKenna Foster for Plan Director Melissa Babb. I do want to also, we've been thinking about this project a lot, and it's a really difficult project. There's like a lot of problems to solve here, and it's like 10 or 20 years of problems. So I'm really sort of sympathetic to the project team and trying to juggle all those pieces. And then there are all the other pieces, a lot of what we do is focus on land use, is trying to balance sort of the big picture state level transportation needs, but also, the desires and values of the community embodied in our land use plans. So from the planning perspective, at least, everything we look at, it's based in what's in the comp plan, the Fairview neighborhood plan, and the long range transportation strategy. So there's a lot in there. I won't go through all the pieces, but a lot of it is making sure that we're aligning the transportation system with what people actually need on the ground, and we're not having too big impacts. The long range transportation strategy, of course, came out, was adopted this year. A lot of it really focused on maintaining existing and improve, fix, and using what we have first. So I think a big piece of that is, if we have a system that has existing capacity, can we use that existing capacity rather than building new capacity? Because this, in our department, we spent some time this week talking with people, and there's a lot of big questions about this. Really envisions even a lot more needed capacity. I think it's something like 77,000 cars. So our kind of big picture things that we've been looking at or been concerned about are just one, the project need, do we need this big of a project, or is there a way that we can figure out how to use what we already have first? And then another big one is the loss of housing and zone capacity. So as is, it looks like this project, even in the sort of pared down version, it would remove a number of housing units and a lot of zone capacity. That's the other piece. It's one thing if 20 houses have to get relocated, that's really difficult. But if we lose 20 parcels or however many acres of R3 zoning, that zoning is really hard to get back anywhere else. And so a lot of our plans are set up on this idea that we have allocated sort of zoning capacity in different places. So if we lose a big chunk of that, right, it's 20 parcels zoned at R3 could be, at 60 housing units or more. 80 housing units, depending, right, in the maximum build out. Those are sort of idealized numbers. But so that's a big concern for us, is anytime we are trading taxable land, housing land for right-of-way land, we want to see, how are we going to make that up? Are we going to make that up somewhere else? Is somebody going to help us rezone somewhere else from R1 to R3? Are we going to add that zoning capacity to an R4 somewhere else? And then another piece, of course, always also come from the long-range transportation strategy, cost, maintenance, operations. This is 11 phases. Looks like it's going to take a long time. And just how will that cost in terms of our ongoing maintenance costs that we have to deal with? Because we always hear from the public about that. How will that balance out with those and other projects in the area, right? If there's only so much funding that goes into Anchorage that Anchorage gets access to, if we have $500 million here and then potentially $2 billion down on the Seward Highway, what does that mean for the other projects? What does that mean for all the safety needs we have? I think we're at 14 fatalities or injuries this year. So there are a lot of needs on the network. And just thinking about, in a future of increasingly limited financial constraints, are we going to have enough? If we do something huge like this and something huge down south, what does that mean for the other stuff? Because many people, their biggest concern is, I don't feel safe walking in my neighborhood across the street. So again, maybe that goes back to the first comment, that this is a really hard project, and it's unfortunately, the project team has been saddled with solving a lot of problems. I don't know if they can solve them all, but those are kind of the things we talked about with the director. There are a number of other little pieces about how are these frontage roads going to connect? How big are these roundabouts going to be? But maybe we'll leave those. But those are sort of the big picture. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Are there other questions or comments? Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I'm just curious, Daniel, does the planning section submit comments on this independently?
Long range will submit comments. A lot of it will be based out of what's in the 2020 plan, 2040 plan, Fairview neighborhood plan,
Sure.
and the long range transportation strategy. And it'll be sort of that with a few more specifics, but it's a lot of what AMAT's said as well. But one of our big things is always, especially now, was going to be the housing piece. Thinking about, if we're trading housing land for right-of-way land, where else are we going to make that up? And that was some of our initial comments on this as well.
Mm-hmm. So, and what about the engineering department? Do you guys submit independent?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure what our plan is at the moment. Go ahead, Melinda.
As Mr. McKenna Foster shared, yes, I can see how complex this project is. Even reading the executive summary, part of the introduction on the conclusion is that, just to capture some of the comments, its current configuration does not adequately serve the competing demand of regional commuter and freight movement, local access, multimodal travel, neighborhood connectivity. So I can see that there's a lot of competing needs and interests, and trying to find a solution that accommodates everybody is difficult. But with that broad statement of basically this is a difficult project to solve, what could we do to look at the idea of, could we have this transportation network acknowledge that we have the urban corridor that may have some more congestion and may not look like a freeway or a bypass. It's the word, it's not a bypass. What was it called in the Fairview?
Parkway.
Parkway, thank you. Sorry, it wasn't bypass, Parkway. But to have the different segments that enter the urban environment, maybe there's opportunities to look at the balance, because I did see that throughout the draft of the interest of finding more balanced approach and looking at the other networks to disperse some of the impacts of the transportation network, and maybe looking at viewing livability as a high priority. I think the things, I wrote my notes before I read AMAT's comments, and a lot of them did coincide. So I do support AMAT's comments. The ones that I particularly am interested in finding out more about is when they identified that the functionality of an NHS roadway network or corridor has to be retained. What is the definition of those goals and functionality? As I look across our other roadway networks that have NHS designations, they're not acting like a freeway. They are carrying road volume, but maybe fitting the context of the surrounding land uses. So I'd kind of like to find out, why is the goal of moving high corridor if we could find out that the capacity is adequate, especially on 15th Avenue, maybe just finding more balance between the networks instead of having the goal for the Parkway higher volume, and maybe looking at a more implementable approach where you recognize a lower volume and taking a look at that, taking a look at the model that's using that as an analysis for the higher volumes. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thanks, Melinda. You have some other comments, Luke?
Yeah, I was going to throw out some discussions here from the group here on capacity and capacity of existing roadways within the area. One thing, as we progress through this PEL process, we really haven't been trying to gain capacity. What we've been trying to do is separate users and accommodate the existing traffic levels that are within these areas, but also kind of balancing that with desires like Ingrid Gamble going to a main street to a 3-lane type facility there, which I believe is kind of the current desire for that community. 5th and 6th, reducing lanes along those facilities from a 6-lane facility to a 4-lane facility. And with doing that too, I think, if we look at changes to Ingrid Gamble, which are currently classified as interstate highway system, in order to move that designation somewhere else, we have to have a roadway to pin that to say that this is where that traffic will be going. And that's something that we'll really have to work with our federal partners on. I think the Parkway alternative that the team has come up with provides a good opportunity for that. It separates those uses. It's not overly impactful. We're not trying to create massive capacity and really we're trying to maintain that regional connectivity within the project area. And it's not just the project area either. I think this has a benefit to all of Anchorage as well. So, and also, the comments there on the loss of residential, as we go through design, obviously, we're going to try and limit it right away impacts to the extent that we can. And also, I think we've seen some disinvestment in the Fairview community as a result of having an interstate system running through that community for, 60 years now. So hopefully we're seeing some revitalization to some communities within Anchorage as a result of the projects shown here in this PEL. So.
Okay, thanks, Luke. Other
One comment.
questions or comments? Okay, go ahead, Heather.
I appreciate the time the project team took to work with parks. That was great because one of the alternatives was at one time going to go through Eastchester Park and Sitka Street. I would have loved to have a seat at the table for the technical advisory committee, especially since your alternative's called a parkway. I mean, come on, guys. So that's all I think. And there's a part of the plan that really highlights connectivity between two of our major green belts and utilizes some of the infrastructure we'd ultimately be maintaining. And so as this progresses, we look forward to having a seat at the table.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead, Daniel.
I just wanted to mention that the long-range transportation strategy adopted, it calls for a change in a mode shift over time. So I think that's whenever we're talking about sort of projections of what traffic will be, the strategy as it is adopted now, and this could change, but the strategy is that there will be a change. So I think the assumption that traffic in the future will always be vehicular traffic and will always be in the same way. Our plan looks at that some of that traffic in the future will not be vehicular traffic. So I think that's important to consider, and it should be included in a lot of this because that is where the strategy is pointing us to try to think about in the future, some of those trips that maybe would have been on Fifth or Sixth or somewhere else, maybe they will be on a different mode, or maybe they'll be spread out a little bit. So that's just something I think worth considering, that I think many of these projections or these modeling, it assumes the same types of behavior into perpetuity. While our strategies, our adopted plan guidance says the behavior will be different in the future. We're planning for it to be different. So I think that's worth considering in that it won't always just be this constant increasing flow. It might be maybe the number of trips will be increasing, but types will be different or the way that we made will be different. So just something to consider, and that's in the long-range transportation strategy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Other questions or comments? I'll jump in with a few thoughts. One of the things that I recognize in past highway to highway projects is just real implementation challenges, and having an alignment that is drawn on a map that doesn't materialize, and the disinvestment that creates in that area. And so for me, I definitely am very interested in like what might happen if a certain alignment that's shown doesn't materialize. What is there disinvestment that happens there? And also then the question of what things might impede implementation. For example, Merrill Field is over a landfill. So what happens if, as this is looking to go to construction, you uncover significant landfill debris and hazardous materials? Is that a showstopper for the project? Is that something that, yeah, and I know that alignments changed on a recent project this summer because of hitting trash and so there had to be some scrambling. So how is that envisioned? Is that something that the team is aware of? Also implications for, I know the FAA has had statements about a clear zone for their runways. Would this impact the ability to use some of the Merrill Field runways? with the alignment. So some of those sorts of questions that I know this is planning level, but at the same time, how do we get far enough so that we don't get in the process of building something and then hit roadblocks that just remove from being implemented. Another would be if Hyder Street can't be connected, or if it's problematic with north and south because of the way things are currently designed. Is it okay? Is the design such that Hyder Street can be a pedestrian boulevard without being a regional connection? And I know that I raised some comments about Carlock being one that we're using right now as a neighborhood greenway that connects north-south in that area. So kind of some of these, like when there's unknowns, instead of having something that is, this is the plan, if there's like contingency awareness, could be very valuable so that we don't get into trying to implement and realize that we can't. I guess another one too is the heavy vehicles do go north-south on A and C Street through downtown. And looking at the freight route, it seems very circuitous and like windy with lots of roundabouts. Is that really what the freight users are going to use versus straight shot over, A and C to 5th and 6th? So is kind of just, I guess, another question of the usability of that or the expense of that and if it would be used. And I guess then the last question is like the short-term option. If this is the long-term plan, would Ingrid Gamble like start to be converted before this was built, or like, I think MTP had a 3-lane alternative that could accommodate current volumes. And so just kind of some questions on short-term implications. So those are some of, I guess, my questions that have come to my mind. I hadn't necessarily written them all down in a response, but I can talk with my staff and see if there's interest in providing something more written. So are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, let's move to, oh, you have no?
Oh, I was gonna, did want to mention too that we've got Galen Jones here and members of the project team that could answer questions if other folks had more detailed questions. I know there has been coordination with Merrill, and I think we've got another meeting coming up with Merrill up here as we're advancing the PEL. Eager Campbell, as we're still moving forward with the lane drop from 4 lanes to 3 lanes in each direction here as an interim improvement that would be in advance of when a Main Street 3-lane Ingram would be pursued there, provided the PEL concludes with the same recommendations that we have right now. I don't know if Galen an opportunity if there's anything that you had to say or not. Never mind.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts based on your all thoughts. I wrote down a ton of notes. Is it appropriate time for the proceeding? Okay. So when it comes to timeline, I know it can, when you look at 11 projects, first of all, I wanted to highlight that only 3 of those projects are for the recommended park. Those projects, because of the way that they're phased, one of the most attractive parts about the recommended connection is that you could start those projects concurrently. You could overlap the design. And because some of them are off alignment, you could build those without disruption to traffic. So we've sketched out a rough schedule. Perhaps you could build those projects in 10 to 12 years, all 3 of them, if funding priority was in place. Design through construction, roughly 5 years process each. Design process each previous to construction. The rest of those projects, 6 are transit and complete street projects. So saying that there are 11 projects, it's going to take a long time. Just wanted to provide those details with that. When it comes to mode shift, the model, the traffic model that is used does include mode shifts built into the model that the original AMATS 2050 model. So it does include some mode shift. In addition, the recommended alternative does include an additional transit route that does take people out of their vehicles and encourage mode shift. As far as right-of-way goes, Mr. McKenna Foster mentioned 20 parcels. It's more like 7 or 8 parcels. A couple of those are multi-family parcels, so it's more than 7 or 8 units. It's 20 units of residential. And I think out of those 8 parcels, some are commercial, so we wouldn't be losing housing from those. And they're just awkwardly shaped small parcels for the northwest corner, the southeast corner of Ingra and 15th Avenue. So as far as capacity goes, we're recommending taking 4 lanes off of the Ingra Gamble couplet, putting 4 lanes onto a bypass onto the parkway. So like Luke said, just want to emphasize, this isn't a capacity project. It's really trying to get the interstate highway out of the neighborhood. Those are the majority of my comments. Do you want to come to the technical advisory committee? I didn't realize you weren't on it, and we would love to.
Yeah, dude.
Send you an invite for that.
Great.
I thought you were at one of the meetings before, so I think in my mind you were on the committee. So
No, I think what happened is we had a former director who was invited
cover.
and I didn't cover, which is that's in the past, and I'd love to be included now.
Yes.
Thank
that would be
you.
Valuable.
Yeah. Great.
So yeah, there's that. And then I think that is really all I wanted to touch on. I think Luke hit everything else. But yeah, just to emphasize that, like everybody else has said, it's a diverse array of issues. And the interstate highway system really has the difference between that and just the national highway system has regional significance. You know, we have to think about the valley, we have to think about the freight, we have to think about state economy. There's all these complicated things. And I think some of your questions and concerns too will be addressed in the report too. And while I have the floor, thanks to Aaron for taking the time for all the comments. A lot of good stuff in there that's going to really help us bolster up the report. And we look forward to scheduling a meeting with you to go over those.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Coy or Chair Coy?
Yep, we're still on the committee, so if you've got a comment. you
Yeah.
can-
Okay. Just another area that I'm looking at. So the draft showed the MTP 2050, and it says, which does not include a new freeway connection between the Glenn and Seward highways. And then I'm just trying to understand more, because then it talks about the goal of incorporating the approaches into the build alternative, which shows consistency with adopted plans, accommodation, promotion of planned improvements from 2050 MTP. So I'm just trying to understand if it showed that there was identification of not including a freeway connection and then incorporating that. So I'm looking at other jurisdictions just out of curiosity. Idaho, thinking about Boise being a city maybe about our size, and they don't have the interstate going through Boise. They have a US highway or a state highway size that accommodates Boise. Could we imagine that? Do we need the designation of the interstate cutting through our urban area, or could we look at that differently? I guess that's just some of my thoughts.
Yeah, through the chair, that would be ideal to have an interstate highway going through your city. I think some of these other larger cities have the opportunity of belt roads. Also in that area, I believe the interstate goes around Boise. So you do have a contiguous interstate system. If we were to just scrap the interstate system, like Luke said, we'd have to work with federal partners on that, and it would result in a non-contiguous interstate system. So would there be a gap in the middle of it? And is that acceptable that somebody would have to work the FHWA on? There's also military significance, straw net facilities, the port, the military base. So did that,
You've captured some of my thoughts. I mean, I think that's just my question. Could we view this differently and maybe arrive at some justification that Anchorage is different? We're not, by the time you go to the Seward Highway, what other state are you going to reach if it's an interstate? I know it's the definition of an interstate, maybe not being contiguous with another state that we're accessing. But by going through this urban segment, Anchorage is different. So maybe we have some exception there. So just a thought.
sure.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Can I make a comment now or do you want me to play it until later?
Maybe just wait a sec, see if anyone else from the committee. I guess one question that came to mind for me is, I know the Reconnecting Communities grant is ongoing and doing analysis. Would someone mind speaking to just how this interplays with that, with the timing wise? Kind of what we might see with those two?
I think I probably defer to Galen on that. He's been working closest with.
Yeah, sure. So we held a joint open house with the Fairview Reconnecting Communities grant team a few weeks ago. Well attended, and we're working closely with them. We meet with them once a month to coordinate our efforts. And the way that the relationship between the two projects and the teams and the timeline, what that team has said is that really their recommendations are going to be kind of based on the PEL recommendations, and there'll be a follow-on. The way I look at it is that team has been in coordination with, both teams have been in coordination with one another. So ideally, the recommendations from the PEL would have buy-in from that team, and then they would expand on them to get into more detail about the future of Fairview, land use, economic aspects, and more specifically, the future of what the Ingrid-Gamble couplet looks like. And really, that's the focus of their study, which is the way I understand it. So they, I think, will publish their study within maybe a year or two after the PEL is published. And it'll be a continuation to some degree of the PEL efforts and recommendations.
Okay.
So we worked very hard to make sure that these studies are collaborative and compelling.
All right, thank you. Other questions or comments? Okay, we'll give you a moment, Aaron.
Yeah, sorry, we only had like 5 days to review this, provide comments, so there's probably some things I missed overall. But there's two things I want to mention because I keep hearing it from the project team and DOT, that this is not a capacity project. And you may need to reframe how you talk about it because it is in part a capacity project because of how you're actually talking about it. You're moving your capacity from one location to another. Because if it weren't a capacity project, then you would talk about how the rest of the system could absorb it, which you already did, and you mentioned that it couldn't absorb the change in traffic. So it is in part a capacity project. So let's just be honest with everybody. It may not be the main focus, but that is part of it. And secondly, when you look at what you have here, it's really just moving the disconnect from one location to another. Because you now have this recessed freeway that have bridges that people have to cross in order to be able to get in and out of their community. So just something to think about as we move forward on this is that it doesn't really look like it's solving the overall problem with the community. It may be addressing DOT's needs, and we talk about balance here. It's hard to see what DOT is giving up in this scenario versus what everybody else is giving. So maybe that just needs some more clarification in the report as you. Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron. Let's move into the public comment period. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? Anyone online, if you'll be raising your hands. And is there anybody in the room before we go online? Okay, not seeing anybody in the room. Is there anyone online who would like to comment? Okay, I'm not feeling any hands right now, so sounds like we will then move back to what is the will of the committee? Got a motion you want to make?
Yeah. I'll throw one out there. I'd like to move to recommend that the policy committee adopt the AMAT staff comments plus additional comments from the TAC and forward these on to AKDOT and PF.
Okay, there's been a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Mr. McKenna Foster, seconded by Ms. Kohlhaas. Any discussion? Is Aaron, is what Daniel's motion was, is that you have that captured?
Yeah, it's move to recommend to the PC adopt AMET staff comments and forward them on to AKD and PF.
Okay, you said that you've already sent the comments to
Yeah.
AKD and TNPF?
We've already sent the comments forward, so maybe it could be recommend supporting AMET staff comments.
Mhm.
And then forward that support on to DOT.
There were a lot of comments made, questions brought up during the conversation here. And Daniel, your motion sounds like it was trying to capture that as well. Is that something that that staff can do? Pull the comments from the conversation to present to the policy
Sorry, Did
committee?
you include that in your motion? I missed that, didn't I? I was trying to catch up to you guys
Okay,
because
and
there's
the
so much to keep track of.
Yeah,
So
it's like-
staff comments and the comments talked about today. Yes. Can you restate your motion?
Could I just restate, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, move to recommend. Was it supporting?
I think originally you said the PC adopt AMAT staff comments. Let's just go with the original and then I'm paying attention, I promise.
Okay, the original was move to recommend that the policy committee adopt the AMAT staff comments plus additional comments from the TAC and forward these materials to AKDOT and PF. But if it's better, maybe you could say move to recommend that the policy committee support the AMAT staff comments or however that works.
I mean, if you're looking to do both, I'm not saying you have to, just if you're looking to, the recommendation might be to support AMAT staff comments and send the additional comments that were talked about today to AKDOT for consideration, or the project team. Whoever you want to send it to.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it includes everything we talked about here as well, at least the high level. So it would be maybe talking about the designation of interstate versus national highway system. Does that capture what you were saying? Also reflecting the loss of housing capacity and zoning capacity. You want the piece about being on the.
Oh, he's
Okay,
got
that's
it.
taken care of.
Yeah.
Contiguous, discontiguous interstate, more than just designation.
Yeah. And then I'd also say the overall cost of the project in the context of other projects in the area. And the disconnection, additional disconnection of the neighborhood.
Okay. So it's interstate versus NHS designation, reflecting the loss of housing, zoning capacity, discontinuous interstate, or the idea of a discontinuous interstate. Sorry, of a discontinuous interstate, overall cost of the project in context of other projects, and additional disconnection of the neighborhood. Did I capture that? So those would be the comments that this would forward if it were approved.
I think there's another one, revisiting the volume, the model.
Yeah, it's a great one.
So yeah, I guess this goes back to my original question. Would staff be able to go back through this conversation and pull out like the specific questions that the committee members have brought up to put together that
Yeah.
suggestion for the policy committee?
Yeah, I could work with Lori to do that, and what we could do is send it out to you all to have you review it before it goes to the policy committee to make sure that we captured the comments, questions that you had, so. Because there was a lot talked about here, and as you can see, there were a lot going on, so I might have missed a few. So we can do that and get that ready before it's posted at the next policy committee.
I think
if
that,
that works for you guys.
I think that would be a lot more efficient than working our way through all of what we just said.
Perfect.
And reiterating it. One thing I'm struggling with though is the comments that staff created. The motion is to recommend those as comments from the policy committee. To the policy committee adopt those as part of their comments. Is that correct, Daniel?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And so us as a technical advisory committee, do we feel like we have done our due diligence in reviewing all of those comments? And have the confidence to say, we as a technical advisory committee, also have these same questions. These are relevant questions. And I'm a little hesitant to say that, to go that far. I'm really glad that staff took the time to do this deep dive. But the technical aspect that we are supposed to apply to it, like, did we really do that here? And so it kind of begs the question, like, is that what we should be telling the policy?
Okay, yeah,
So I'm glad the questions that this is being forwarded as staff comments, and so the project team will get to review those. And I think what I do like is these questions that have been brought up today by the committee. Like, those are our technical thoughts on what we've seen here and would be super appropriate to be forwarded to the policy committee. And so I'm kind of questioning whether we should limit ourselves to that.
Limit ourselves to just the questions that we posed here today.
Mhm.
I think if I understand right, what you're saying is project team is gonna already get all of the staff comments. They are also here kind of verbally receiving all of our committee comments, but being able to formalize our committee comments and providing it, then make sure that all of it gets to them. I guess the question on my mind is there value in taking the AMAT's comments and elevating it to a higher level of this is like official policy comments? And does that apply to the staff comments? Does that apply to all the technical advisory comments? Does it make a difference for it to be adopted by the policy committee versus the fact that it's still all going to the project team either way? And I guess what I'm hearing from DOT, from James, is hesitancy to feel like we've, as the technical committee, like are in, want to take ownership of the staff comments to where we're saying that should be adopted versus the recognition that it's all still going to. Did I capture that?
I like the idea of the ownership. Yeah, that kind of is where I was dancing around there. So well said.
So thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I'll say that I like that point, because this is the technical committee. It makes sense to agree with this technical analysis. I think I can say that in representing the director, because we've had multiple meetings about this within our department, we have looked at the technical aspect of these comments. I feel comfortable talking through any of the technical aspects of this. I mean, the really technical stuff, stuff like screening report, whether it aligns with the LRTS, even the stuff that really particulars about which data they use to do the projections, whether it's 21 data or 2022 data. So I think from this seat's position, the technical analysis is sound, and I think it is important to put that forward because we have talked about that and we have discussed it. So I think we've had at least 2 or 3 meetings in that department. So I think from this chair, it's easy to say that, yes, that's a good point. Like, do we have a strong technical understanding and appreciation of this? I think in this chair, this seat does, and it does sort of support moving that forward. So thank you.
It's really good to hear that you guys put that effort in, because it is a lot to go through both the document and the comments.
And we have an additional meeting scheduled with the project team, so we're going to share that as well. So.
When I read them, I also supported the comments. the ones that I expressed today are the ones that were particularly my individual comments highlighted from that list.
Yeah,
So I don't know what else to do. Say that there's a report and may not be from the whole TAC unless we voted on it, but.
I'll have to admit that I didn't read them with the intent of like taking ownership from, the traffic engineering side. And I definitely appreciate all of them. I think they're all great things to get answers to. Could I vote to say, yes, I agree that all of this is the way that I would interpret everything? I'm not at that point. I didn't put that level of effort into it. So I would have a harder time like voting to put my name on it in that way versus the way James was representing. Not because I disagree, but because I haven't put in that work yet. So I guess the question then with the motion, you made a motion and then we talked a little bit. That's seemed like we could formalize it as a friendly amendment and have a revised motion. What is, I guess, as the mover and the second, like, what do you want to do with your motion?
Is there a proposal for a friendly amendment?
I think that's kind of what Aaron had made was the friendly amendment of like specify, like you started to specify different things to include. I wasn't sure if that was like the formulation of a friendly amendment or like what you want your motion to be. Because the motion that was made was to have the policy committee adopt the staff comments and all the things that the TAC had said. So that's what's kind of on the table right now. All the other conversation after that wasn't formalized as friendly amendment yet. So are you wanting to friendly amendment? Are you wanting it to be the request that was kind of getting developed to have the staff provide to the committee a summary of what we talked about so that it can be like conferred by the committee and then sent to the policy committee? We took, and the things we talked about, but there wasn't. The next step would have been to say, okay, friendly amendment, is that part of your motion? And then the mover and the second would say, yes, that's friendly amendment, our motion to include those pieces. But yeah.
I think the intent of my motion was to say, from this chair, it makes sense. These comments make sense. We'd like to recommend to the policy committee that they do something with it and all the other discussion we have. I think a friendly amendment would have to come somewhere else. I don't think it can come from staff. I think it has to come from some other member. I think I definitely entertain a friendly amendment. But my intent generally is, yes, I support these comments. I support the content of these comments. And we've gone through these comments in the planning department. And we will have many of the same comments that will come out on our letterhead as well, saying pretty much the same, but more on top of that, likely. So if there's a friendly amendment, I think by all means, let's entertain it. But I don't think staff can't make it. I could amend my motion, but I don't think I don't want to amend the motion. I'm more than open to a friendly amendment to it.
Got it.
Basically, if somebody has another idea, great, let's talk about it. But I don't have another idea about it.
Can I offer, is there any comments that people feel uncomfortable with adopting? Like, is that part of this? Is that something, because I didn't hear that during the conversation from this committee. I heard some things from DOT, which I appreciated, but I didn't hear any like, number 8, don't agree, let's remove it. Any of that?
I think what we didn't do is go through every single one and talk about it. Discuss what the nuances are and go through that level of detail. And honestly, for me to feel comfortable saying, yes, this has got my stamp, that's kind of what I would want to do.
Okay.
But I recognize that there's a lot in here and it is all very valuable. And I think what I might offer as a friendly amendment is for the motion to be that TAC for this to policy committee and request that they emphasize and heighten the project team to take these comments, not just as regular public comments, but at a higher level as especially wanting attention from from AMATs. Which in that case, it's not like adopting and saying we agree with everything, but it's saying, yes, these are important, and yes, we want you to emphasize these as kind of priority comments, so to speak. And then something that is kind of on that regard, if that makes sense. And then also like more formalized, figure out the process that we'll go through with getting all of our comments today. Technical Advisory Committee incorporated in.
Ask a question. Will the policy, AMATS has sent these or will send these to the project team. Will the policy committee also see them?
Yeah, AMAT staff
We'll
already
see
sent
them.
the comments. And it's very similar if it came from like a subcommittee like BPAC, like we've done in the past, where the comments are get sent from the committee to the project team with an emphasis. They were sent from that project team. I put it all over the email that I sent that these were AMAT staff. I'm sure Galen's like, yes, I get the point. But I wanted to make it very clear that these were AMAT's staff comments. So those comments will go to both the TAC and policy committee, just for their information. And then if the TAC or PC is like, we like this comment, we don't like this comment, we don't like any of them, or we formulate our own comments like today and say, these are what we want to send to the project team. It's not going to hurt anybody's feelings if you guys don't support AMAT staff comments. I understand. But with that said, if you're wanting to make a friendly amendment to be like emphasize the importance of these above other public comments, I don't know how you do that without adopting them or emphasizing that they're coming from the policy committee. And it will let you know, we don't need an action from you guys to sit there and say, send out the comments afterwards and then make sure we're okay with them. We'll just do that anyways to make sure it's covered. We don't need you to include that as part of a friendly amendment.
I also don't want to burden this body with something after I'm no longer filling in, but it does seem to me like the intent of the technical advisory committee would be to provide that technical advice so the policy committee can say, well, what did you all think from the technical standpoint? Do these comments make sense or not? So, and maybe it would be nice to go through them point by point, probably not today, or I don't know if it's worth it, but that does seem to me that from the policy level, it seems like they would probably want the technical advisory committee to tell them, yes, we think these comments are technically sound, and we agree with them in a technical way or not. Other than that, and maybe I'm just thinking as staff, and I'm normal staff here, is that just saying we like them and continuing on, it sounds like that's going to happen anyway. So I'll leave it at that.
Could the record show that there's individual members who expressed specific support and let the record show, and then maybe the motion that we could amend focuses on gathering the TAC comments, and then it would be forwarded to the policy committee.
Does that look like a work session? Wasn't that?
Well, we can include it when we bring it to the policy committee and to say the TAC members of these said that they support the comments, but the overall body didn't have enough time to go through all the comments to feel comfortable to recommending or providing support to the policy committee.
But I guess that kind of comes out in the vote, doesn't it? I mean, if, like Daniel, you say, like, I have done the technical analysis, I think these are perfectly legitimate questions, I vote yes to forward them on. And as we go down the line, we all make that determination. And that's kind of where that decision comes.
We just don't normally report it to the policy committee how the vote happened. We just say a majority voted yes.
Right.
But if you guys want us to, we can let them know who voted to support them.
I mean, just a yes or no kind of says whether or not the committee as a whole has confidence that there's been adequate technical review of these questions. And from what I'm hearing from you and Linda, like, you definitely have done that. So I certainly would support that.
Yeah, but if you then had to vote on sending these and adopting them, that was the motion, would you vote yes or would you vote no? Whereas if the motion was to send the recommendation that the policy committee support the staff comments with the recognition that certain members of certain groups within the technical advisory committee have reviewed and concur. Then we could, I think I could more easily vote yes if it wasn't saying that my yes meant that I had like fully concurred and put in the time to like be in full agreement with all of it,
Mhm.
This may be a stupid question.
It's no
I
stupid
don't know, it's
question.
very often I've been asked a stupid question. What is there that much value in us adopting those comments that have already getting sent to the policy committee, that have already been sent to this committee, that have already been sent to the project team? What if there's this much concern by people that haven't reviewed it? Is what's the value? Is the question, I guess. Are we really adding value by adopting or not adopting? I would say not adopting it maybe says something. So if we go forward with this motion and too many people feel uncomfortable and it comes out as a no, that probably maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally says something, but does adopting it really add that much value? I guess is my question.
I guess the way that I would interpret the adoption is it basically, if the policy committee like adopts that, it says if you don't address these and not just like respond to them, but don't actually like incorporate them to some reasonable extent, then AMATs won't support the recommendations in the PEL. That's kind of how I would interpret it. I mean, maybe I'm getting that wrong, but
So then I think that lends credence to my question. Then, like, is our adopting this, if the policy committee is already going to have a copy to review? Like I said, I think a no vote may send an unintentional. I think everybody thinks that these are good comments, but if there's enough people that are uncomfortable because we haven't had the time to really delve into them, does a no vote on this current motion send an unintended message? And is the yes vote valuable enough to move forward with that motion? I guess is my question.
You make a good point, and I think if we go back to the memo, the action requested is that we just provide comments. It's not saying that we have to adopt or not, and I think maybe we just stick with that. So do we vote on this? But we don't want to do you want to retract? Is that where we're at?
You said the action would be no, just take no action.
The action requested by these guys is just provide comments.
Okay. Yeah, then I'll retract my motion. I don't think we need to make it, it sounds like.
And we can work with staff on either providing additional comments or drafting our own departmental letters if that's needed.
Well, you had comments here today. What do you want done with those comments? If you want those comments that you guys made today that we had read out earlier sent to the policy committee, we'll need a motion and a vote.
Okay.
So that's what we can.
So you might, well, you said you'd retract it. You could do a friendly amendment to adjust the motion and remove the support for the AMAT staff comments and just say the comments discussed today at the TAC, we're forwarding them to the policy committee for consideration. And then staff will work with Lori and I'll sit down, make sure we flesh it all out appropriately, send it to you guys beforehand to make sure it looks good and that it covered everything. And then we'll make that available to the policy committee, post it next week.
Is it easier if I just amend mine? Do that.
A friendly
I think if
amendment.
you do a friendly amendment,
Well, it's me. It's friendly to myself. But
yeah, so
Yeah, how do we do it, Lori? Is it just,
I'll amend my own.
okay,
I'd like to move to send this discussion, the high-level summary of this discussion to the policy committee.
okay, move to have, like, are you wanting to send it to us for us to like concur with it, or
Just send it to the policy committee for their review and information.
is it helpful for you to have one step where you send it to us and we give you a say, yes, this looks like it's correct? and
I'm
then
gonna
you
do
send it?
that regardless of what you guys vote. because that's our normal process. So that's what I have in there. I'm not gonna send them forward with just the little bit I have here, because that,
Any requests?
we had an issue last meeting that I didn't hear correctly, so I want to make sure I did it this time better. We just need to know if the second concurs with this amendment to the motion.
Concur.
Thank you. So the new motion is recommend to the policy committee to review the comments discussed at the TAC meeting today.
Terrific,
Does that work for everybody?
terrific.
I almost feel like there should be a friendly amendment to note that as a technical advisory committee, we see a lot of merit in these, the comments from staff.
Yeah, I would,
Because I really don't want any sort of, I wouldn't want to cast any sort of shadow on these comments. They're good, valid comments. Whether or not we feel confident with our technical delving into it today. I still want to somehow highlight the fact that staff did a great job putting these comments together.
yeah, I was feeling the same thing. I was gonna actually make the same friendly amendment.
Go for it.
That we still recommend that the policy committee, adopt is a strong word, so that's what I was, I think, taking a little bit issue. That the policy committee support AMAT staff in having sent these comments to the project team, and also include the additional comments from the technical advisory committee. So that kind of emphasizes the importance of this getting sent and addressed, but doesn't add that heightened adoption, which, as I stated earlier, kind of says if you don't address these to a satisfactory way, we won't support the PEL. It's kind of, I guess, for better or worse, how I would kind of interpret an adoption of. So.
Well, it's a little,
you said.
I'm trying to thread the needle.
it's a little adjusted. Let me read and make sure I got your friendly amendment. So the friendly amendment made by Brad is recommend that the PC support AMAT staff in having sent the comments to the project team and include the comments discussed at the TAC.
Okay,
As the form.
so
And we could say as formal comments from AMAT.
so we're supporting the staff, or we're supporting the comments, or we're
Supporting
supporting?
the effort of the
We're
staff.
supporting the staff. the
Okay,
council
great.
sent.
That reads like that.
Okay,
Cool,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Go
Get a
team.
winner here.
Because go staff.
We do
Okay.
appreciate all the effort. We do want it to like,
To the main, so just read it again, is recommend that the PC support AMAT staff in having sent, says these comments, their comments to the project team and include the comments discussed at the TAC meeting for consideration. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay, that was a friendly amendment. Do the primary and secondary agree with that friendly amendment?
Very
Yes.
much so.
Okay, I think we got it. How'd we do, Lloyd? Outsiders, buddy.
Oh, yay.
Okay, so, are there any objections to approving the motion as with the friendly amendments as stated by Aaron? Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved. So thank you everyone for working through that. Let's move on to item 5B, which is the Seward Highway.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Can I just say thanks for the project team to be here and hear our comments directly? We appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Way to thread the needle there.
Yeah. You know, thanks for speaking up. That's what you were thinking.
Last time we try to adopt anything.
Are we good to go? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
Item 5B, the Seward Highway, O'Malley to Dimond purpose and need comments.
Okay, I'm hoping I'll make this less confusing for everybody. So this, as you may recall, the Seward Highway, O'Malley to Dimond project is underway again by DOT. DOT has taken a step back on this project. And one of the things they're doing is reevaluating and kind of coming up with a new purpose and need for this project. So as part of this effort, they've developed a pretty robust stakeholder group that's made up of legislative members, committee or community members, and agency members. Well, AMATS is one of the stakeholders. AMATS staff is attending the meeting. There are other members of the TAC who are participating on that stakeholder group, but staff is here to kind of represent our interest as AMATS. At the last meeting, stakeholders were asked to report back to their groups and gather feedback on the purpose and need for this project. So in the memo, I posted the updated project description that the policy committee recently put into the draft 27 through 30 tip for this project. They made some changes to the overall project description, so we just wanted it there for your context. And what I'm bringing this forward for is to see if you as the TAC have any comments or anything that you think that the project team should consider as part of the development of the purpose and need. An example could be emphasizing the focus on active transportation users and connectivity in the area for them. De-emphasizing the importance of vehicular users or emphasizing the importance of vehicular users. Those are the kind of things that they're looking for. They're not looking for solutions like an undercrossing at a location or a full interchange here or things like that. That's not where we're at with the project. They just kind of want the high level purpose and need. What are we doing this project for? Is kind of what we're getting at this point. So staff has no comments on this particular item. The policy committee, I think, has already kind of weighed in where staff needs to sit on this by having this description in the tip. I think a lot of it comes across, some of the things to be looking at. But we want to provide this opportunity for the TAC and then the policy committee to provide any information to give feedback to the project team on what they should consider for the purpose and need. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Go ahead, Luke.
I guess I just want to say thanks for bringing this back to TAC after the discussion there at last month's policy meeting for us to just kind of go through. Like you said there, Aaron, a lot going on in terms of stakeholder involvement on this project. And so assume what we have here may see some tweaks in the future as we continue through that process. But I do believe we had some members from the project team on online today, and I would defer to anybody who's in attendance that may have some input on this from a technical standpoint.
Okay.
Luke, I had one thought on this, on the phrasing here, where it says minor modification to the existing interchanges within the project limits. From that stakeholder meeting that the project team had, it seemed like there was a lot of interest in some reconfiguration of like the O'Malley and Seward interchange. And I'm just concerned that this wording of minor modification to existing interchanges kind of precludes an option to make a significant design change to that interchange. Would you, from an engineer's standpoint, look at that same way?
Well, my guess, and being probably a little bit more blunt, but just we had the diverging diamond concept there at O'Malley and New Seward, or O'Malley and Minnesota, or O'Malley and New Seward. Sorry, that I think that minor modification to existing interchanges is indicating that there's not a desire to go and do a massive change to the intersection at their interchange at that location. And I know that was a sticking point for a lot of folks that provided comments when this project was active a little while back. And so I think that's going to be something that gets discussed there. I don't see a deal breaker with having minor modifications to existing interchanges there to prohibit a massive change to that interchange. If stakeholder engagement, kind of drives the decision that that's something that's desired or is needed in that location, assume we could bring it back to this group and have that discussion.
I think is it Julie with the project team
Oh, yeah.
is there to speak?
Hi there, I'm Julie Trudeau with Jacobs. I'm the project manager for this project. Just here to answer any questions, but Luke, like you said, part of the impetus for going back to stakeholders is to, to take everything off the table and allow the project to redevelop itself, re-identify issues and needs within this segment of the Seward Highway, and then to ultimately come up with some solutions with our stakeholders. So like you said, the diverging Dimond had some challenges with community members, and it isn't necessarily it didn't come up as an issue when we identified areas within the project limits that needed addressing. A lot of non-motorized user issues came up, whether those were east-west connections or improvements north-south. So that was a lot of the comments that we were hearing from our stakeholder group. Again, though, some of those non-motorized improvements at the interchanges could be beneficial. We have had some incidents with bikes and peds in the project limits lately, and within the past couple of years, there have been trends where some minor improvements at the interchanges could make some big safety improvements for everyone. So I liked seeing that in there.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments or questions from the
Sure,
committee?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm pleased to see that there's an opportunity to reevaluate what the mission statement is, or the purpose and need statement is. One thing that I'm looking at is it says, which may include a new undercrossing. Looking at that as some wiggle room, but what I'm wondering about is that could it also look at just a non-motorized exclusive alternative for non-motorized connectivity rather than vehicular undercrossing? Is the way that the purpose and need is stated now, does it allow that exploration of only non-motorized?
That is not the purpose and need statement.
Oh, it is not?
That is the description in the tip.
Oh,
And that is what the draft policy committee just approved to put into the draft tip. So the project team is developing the purpose and need right now.
okay.
So those kind of things are important. Do you want to look at non-motorized connectivity with more emphasis than other connectivity? That might be something we want to recommend to them as something to consider as they're developing the purpose and need.
And I do view, and maybe others might differently, but the way I view it, where it says may include, and then everything after that till the end of this description is kind of a may include. So that's undercrossing, which could be pedestrian, could be vehicle, it doesn't specify, so it leaves that open. It does include minor modifications to interchanges, which could be a safety thing, could be some small things, but not the diverging Dimond or something major like that. Is how I would interpret that. The updates to the focus frontage roads, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, of that being things like the roundabout or pathways or sidewalks, noise walls, drainage. So it kind of doesn't say these all have to be done, but it says these, yeah. But to the point that Aaron made, this is the description, project description that's in the draft tip that's going out to public comment. It's not the final adopted tip yet, but it was the policy committee that did vote on this. So kind of what I see our exercise with purpose and need is to take this description. And if I take this description and think of everything that's in here, and I made a list of what a purpose and need kind of elements would be, here's what I would see them to be. 1, non-motorized multimodal safety as a priority. 2, local access and connectivity, including connections across the highway and minimizing out of direction travel for the landlocked neighborhoods. And then 3 would be discouraging regional cut through. There's, I think, a big reason why interchange at 92nd was removed, was because that made County Vanguard an interchange and not kind of more local, just all the cut through. So those are kind of 3 things that how I interpret this description that are kind of elements of a purpose and need statement. Maybe there's some more, but those are the 3 that popped out to me. Other questions or comments from the committee?
I would love to see this project heavily involve the maintenance division if possible and prioritize like a winter maintenance oriented development here. We have snowing right now, but we have a lot of comments about the types of maintenance and equipment that state versus community has and how that can impact especially non-motorized users. So having a maintenance stakeholder group or something of similar, but really prioritizing the design based on how we maintain things in today's sort of environment would be pretty neat to see for this size of a project.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Just from the planning perspective, I think this just doesn't seem like the hugest, biggest need right now. It'd be nice to get a non-motorized connection underneath, kind of like what Member Cole said. But it doesn't seem that important what it had to be. It doesn't really seem like there has to be a motorized connection there. I mean, in the 2040 plan, it does show this area as part of the transit supportive overlay with multifamily on both sides. But again, transportive overlay is really about multimodal, all sorts of multimodal. So if there ever was a connection between Academy and Scooter, I guess it could be really simple. It could maybe just be busway or a bike path or something like that. But it seems fine, but just not that big of a pressing problem, considering all the other issues.
Other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, let's move to public comment. Other comments from members of the public? Anyone online, if you just raise your hand. Don't see any in the room right now. So we'll give those online another couple seconds. Okay, not seeing any online. That brings it back to the committee. What is the will of the committee? Do we want to formulate some key bullet points of purpose and need to be? So basically, whatever we develop policy committee votes on, Aaron would bring back to this group to be considered as they develop the purpose and need.
Is that
full
the,
disclosure, I am actually one of the committee members too, so.
is that what we're doing here? I thought this was a review of the project scope for the
No.
TIP.
That's already been decided by the policy committee, so there's nothing for you to review. It's
Uh,
what do you want to provide to the project team about the purpose and need of the project? The tip scope was there just so you can see maybe what the policy committee was thinking for this project. That may help get the juices flowing on what you want to put forward.
2 totally open-ended action items today.
It's making it
On the
meaningful as possible for
Should I take a shot at it? I motion to recommend to the policy committee that we include emphasis on non-motorized connectivity or non-motorized safety and connectivity into the project purpose and need.
Can I read that back? Recommend to the PC that we include emphasis on non-motorized safety and connectivity into the project purpose and need. Did I get that right? Is there a second?
If we have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by member Koha, seconded by member Starzyk.
Number one.
And on behalf of member White. Discussion amendments. So we have one positive motion that we can make. So if we want any other elements added to this recommendation, we should amend them in. So I'll entertain any desired amendments. I can list off a few things that have been commented on. One, it was winter maintenance as a function, and it sounded like you were especially referring to being able to maintain the non-motorized in particular. Which maybe that's incorporated in non-motorized safety and connectivity. Maybe it's just adding a qualifier, including winter maintenance. Anyway, some ideas there. The other ones that were mentioned were local access, given the landlocked neighborhoods kind of feature, and discouraging regional cut through. So those are a few other ideas, just if there's any desire to amend those one. So any,
I'll amend those in.
Okay.
Good. Friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, can you read those off again?
So one would be, I guess, the winter maintenance question. Do we want to separate as a separate bullet or attach it to the first?
Two separate bullet each item.
Okay. The other potential one would be local acts or minimizing out of direction travel for landlocked neighborhoods, which really is getting at the diverging diamond at O'Malley that there was, so that is. Another one was discouraging a regional cut through.
Sorry, and that one was local access and connectivity, discouraging out of direction travel for landlocked neighborhoods.
Hmm.
Okay,
And then discouraging a regional cut through
Regional cut through a motorized.
of neighbors, neighborhoods. That's one of the main concerns about interchanges at the second.
so discouraging regional cut throughs of motorized travel.
Yep.
Okay, though.
So one option would be for someone to make that as a amendment. Vote first and second and to vote on it, or to have it be a friendly and have Melinda
I just accept it.
and James say we'll accept it as a friendly amendment.
I think it was a friendly amendment from Daniel
Okay.
already, so
Okay.
we just need to have the main and second agree with the friendly amendment, which involves the winter maintenance and including the maintenance division and designing for winter maintenance as a priority. Discouraging out of direction travel for landlocked neighborhoods. Yes, and then discouraging regional cut through traffic for motorized travel. Did I get that right?
Happy to agree with that.
I have a question on the out of direction travel. Is that for vehicles at 92nd or?
Oh,
Could
actually,
you-
we don't
could-
emphasize whether it's for vehicles or not.
Okay, that's where I'm like, could you explain what that means again?
A diverging diamond would have prohibited certain movement. So if someone along Brighton wanted to get to Brighton, then there are certain movements they would not have been able to make with the diverging diamond in the valley. So, for example, if you lived along Brighton on the east side of the highway, there was a diverging diamond. When you were coming from Potter Marsh, you would, if you got off at the O'Malley interchange, you would have to take a right and travel down O'Malley until you could do a U-turn to come back to get onto Brighton. You wouldn't be able to just go straight through. So things along that line, or if, one of the examples. I could think of a few others, but we'll just stop there.
I mean, they're all for consideration, so. I accept it.
Okay, and is the second?
Absolutely.
Okay, any other amendments or discussion? Are there any objections to approving the motion as friendly amended? Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved. Now we are through our action items. With a half hour to spare. We'll move on to our informational items. First one is 6A, STIP update.
Yes, hello. So this is a carryover from our previous agenda. We didn't get to this item last TAC meeting, so it was our first action item. And this was just to give an opportunity from somebody from the state to just give us a quick update on the STIP and where it's at. And I think Lauren Little with DOT was going to do that. Lauren, if you're available.
I am here. Yep, the STIP update's pretty brief. We don't have any new news on the STIP or the schedule. Obviously, project teams have put a lot of work into updating their project needs in the project delivery plan, the PDP. It's just a matter of circling back around and putting the time into balancing all those. I will point out, though, this timeline was sort of set by DOT with this rolling STIP. And so we don't foresee any program impacts with the delays. I know we'd originally anticipated public comment in October. I think we're still all square on the obligation and delivery side. We obviously still have an extra fiscal year in the current STIP, which we won't be up against by any means. So that is where we're at with the STIP.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Okay, are there any comments from the public? Seeing none online or in the room. Thank you so much, Lauren. We'll move on to the next item. 6B, AMAT's video/local lens.
Actually, Christine,
Go
put
ahead.
her on the spot. Oh, it works.
We'll be watching something on the screen.
So if you didn't catch us, I put it in the chat, but we were invited to do a local lens presentation on October 27th. So Brandon and I was there, and it's just kind of, what is AMATS, everything we do, how to get involved, and we wanted to debut our new 90-second explainer video that kind of gives you everything AMATS is and does in a cute little graphing story. So we also wanted to play that here for you today. So hopefully folks online can hear it. We can chime in if you cannot.
At AMATS, we bring people and organizations together to shape investment and make sure a share of federal transportation dollars gets spent right here. As the agency overseeing federal funding for roads, transit, and pathways in the region, we work with state and local partners to study how people travel today, anticipate what our communities will need tomorrow, and make sure projects support safety, clean air, and community goals. You'll see our work in the Transportation Plan. This 20-year plan is our big picture roadmap. We update this plan every 4 years. All research that we do, whether about biking, safety, or freight, helps to inform the next update of the Transportation Plan. The 4-year funding program pulls projects directly out of that big picture roadmap and lists what gets built or fixed next. And the work program outlines the planning tasks AMATS staff and industry partners will work on over the next 2 years. These plans guide transportation planning in the region, but AMATS needs you. Get involved by attending AMAT's committee meetings, signing up for email or text updates, sharing with your community council what transportation projects are needed in your neighborhood. Get started today.
That's what we have.
Very.
Oh, it went to the next.
Went to the next YouTube.
Next year.
Now everybody can hear what our CAC is like.
Like
Out
what?
of CAC.
What meeting are we in now?
Yeah, just switch meetings. Sorry, everybody.
Very nice.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Cool.
So if you wanna, it's on the Lens website too. You can hear everything Aaron said and we think you did there. So.
Is that your voice?
No, I was not the one there.
Oh,
No, no.
My voice is not that nice.
It's like radio.
Yeah, that was great. It was fun to see like the high-vis crosswalks appear, which is something that appeared this year. So yeah, that's great. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Well done.
Yeah. Yes, it was great. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, see none in the room and no hands raised. Thanks again. Glad to see that. And that's going to be on the website, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's on the main, right now it's on the main website. So if you just go to messages, page, it's right there.
I think I might need to get a link on my phone because whenever I say the AMATs or MPO, I almost always have to explain to everybody what it is.
Just watch the video.
Here's a video.
That's our hope, is that something that we can easily have available in everything that we do. That's just like, here's who we are and here's what we do.
Awesome. Okay, well, next move on to item 6C, the project status report.
I do this?
Okay, so on the thing, it's our, James's normally produced, project status report. We always thank James for his incredible amount of work, including waiting for me last possible minute to provide the information for AMATS's projects, the planning ones. So it's just our regular report, basically letting everybody know where the projects are at right now. Just as a reminder, this is through September 30th, 2025. So if it's anything after that point, it has not been updated as part of this. You'll see it in the next quarterly project status update. So just really encourage everybody to keep this link active in their everyday use and just look for it and see if you have any questions about projects. So we have, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Do we have any questions or comments from committee?
Just wanted to point out a couple changes, improvements as I think they are. And I think one of the best examples is on page 7 for the Downtown Trails Connection. We've included a section called completed project milestones to kind of just to document just what we've accomplished and as far as like process, rather than just like the current phase status. So, you know, we can see the environmental documents approved, the design review's been done, gone through Urban Design Commission, Park and Rec Commission. I thought adding something like that would be really helpful for everyone to see, like, you know, we've gone to the community councils with this. We've gone through the design commission. So hopefully as we move forward, be able to collect more of these milestones from all the projects. But I really dropped that on the project managers at the last minute because I had a great idea and wanted to run with it. And to their credit, many of them really stepped up and provided a lot of good information now in the document.
Yeah, that's great. And having the page number made it really easy for us to all find that.
I hear you.
I often add page numbers, so. So, but yeah, that's awesome. I do appreciate that. And it's good to know that that's in a few of them because it was a great idea at the last minute, and maybe next time there's a little bit more time for some of that to get added into it. That's great. Are there other questions or comments from the committee? I will say that I do love seeing Aaron's power walk on the front picture every time I look at it.
Me too.
That's what everybody says, and I'm like, what was I doing that day? I think I was just walking, just to like get away from everybody for a second to make a phone call. And then somebody captured me, and I don't know who it is. I'll have to find them and thank them.
So, are there any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, 6D.
Yes, that is me. So I just wanted to kind of go through our next meeting in December, everybody. So there are a couple of things. We have 2 action items so far. One is going to be TIP amendment number 4. We have some new projects that we're adding to the TIP based on some efforts that the municipality of Anchorage is doing, as well as a transit related project. So we're very excited to be announcing that as part of that TIP amendment. And then we have an MTP amendment as well to help address some of those projects that we're adding in as part of TIP amendment number 4. So we'll all have that ready to go right before the holidays, and then we'll release it in January after the major holidays are done. One thing to keep in note with the next meeting, this room is going to be undergoing some work to change up the electronics in here so it actually functions on a regular basis and makes things a little bit nicer for all of us. So I think there'll be a lot less of this kind of wires everywhere that you see, and a lot of it's going to be integrated in the room. So it'll be a little more seamless for everybody. Some of the things to look forward to is we're going to have microphones and speakers in the front and the back of the room, so it's a little easier for people to hear. There'll be a little different screen and some other things that are happening right now. So AMAT's is part of the group helping to contribute towards that, so we're just getting that underway. The Muni is doing all of the work, and so we're greatly appreciative of that. But that means that that first week of December, this room will be unavailable for our meeting, sadly. So we are looking for other locations. We're probably going to try and do the mayor's conference room downtown. I know that'll be a little more of a challenge for everybody because it'll be a little further to get there. But we'll let everybody know as soon as we get that confirmed. If it's another location, we will let everybody know as soon as we can. So just kind of keep in mind, we are not meeting in this room December for the TAC meeting. It'll be another location. So.
Do you have any information items coming up for next month?
I have on there the fire relay and rehab update, but I don't know if that'll be done in time because I think we're still waiting on some stuff with the Muni, getting information from the Muni to the project team. So we may have to push that out another month. I'll have to reach out to the project team in a couple of weeks and see where they're at. So outside of that, I don't have any other items right now for informational. So maybe a quick meeting.
Sounds good. Guess we'll see. It's okay. I mean, as long as we stay under the 2 hours, then that's good.
Well, it's our December meeting, so if it's not snowing that day, maybe we can bring in some fake snow and really decorate the room and bring some candy and cookies in.
Right.
See, I'll bake another pie and bring it in for everybody.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, custard things.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Aaron. The next item on the agenda then is item 7, committee comments. Any committee members who have something to share with the group? Go ahead, Daniel.
Shameless plug for the Muni Planning newsletter. I'm going to put it in the chat. Please subscribe if you want. We send out updates some Mondays if you want to know what's going on the land use side of things. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Daniel. Okay, go ahead, James.
This is why Ben doesn't let me sit here. I like to take the opportunity to get out on the air. But I just wanted to let the committee know that we are days away, either today, tomorrow, or at the latest Monday, putting the RFP for the Tudor Road corridor plan on the street. So we'll be soliciting proposals for that real soon. So another milestone there.
Yeah.
And another new plan kicking off.
That is awesome. Are there other member comments? Okay, thanks for sharing those ones. Let's move to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to make a general comment? Okay, seeing no public comments, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay. We are adjourned, 2:40.